What inspired Pythagoras to become the great teacher that was able to bring all this knowledge on geometry, on sacred music, on mathematics, arithmetics, astronomy, and deep occult magic? We have already seen how Pythagoras' father, Mnesarchus, was a merchant, and how his life was traveling with the fleet of ships around the Mediterranean ports, exchanging merchancy, and how the Oracle of Delphi had told them that a great soul would come through them, and that this great soul would bring back sacred wisdom to humankind. So Parthicia, Pythagoras' mother, changed her name to Pythia in honor to Delphis, Pythonicia, and went back to Phoenicia, to the ancient city of Sidon, where she delivered a child sometime between 600 and 590 BC. And they gave this name, this child, and they gave this child the name of Pythagoras in honor to the sacred center and the mystery school of Delphi. And this child spent the first years of life, traveling with his father around the sacred ports and the mystery schools around the Mediterranean. At this point, the Mediterranean Sea was the nest of a huge culture that had its expression in the ancient Greek civilization. But apart from that, in the underworld, there were in activity many sacred ancient schools that had its origin along the Nile River, in the sacred temples where the Egyptian priests guarded the ancient knowledge coming through Atlantis from the stars, mostly from Sirius. And there was an external religion that fluctuated with times, but there was an underlying deep school of mysteries that was not opened to everybody, but that was always hiding in the shadows and transmitting this ancient knowledge through an interrupted chain of initiates and masters of wisdom. Mnesarchus, Pythagoras' father, who remembered and kept in his mind, but also in his heart, the oracle's words about his son, decided to orient him and mentor him from a very young age. And as such, whenever he had to travel across the Greek territories along the Mediterranean ports, he made sure that he could put his son in touch with the most ancient wisdom that could be found in this region. That is how Mnesarchus inspired his boy since his early youth, showing him and taking him to all the sacred places where he knew that the tradition was being linked. And this is how, when Pythagoras was in his early years of adolescence, he went or get acquainted with the first mystery school from his own culture, and this was the mystery school of Eleusis. This mystery school had its roots in ancient Egypt, but was flourishing across the area of Greece. Once he was in his 20s, he had already acquired and mastered all the sacred teachings from the Eleusinian mysteries, and he was ready to go further and to go for more. That is how his father arranged for a trip from central Greece to the region of the north of Egypt. And the point where these two cultures merged at that era was Alexandria. And we are now speaking about the year 560 BC, where Pythagoras was a young man, and with the help of his father, he went physically to Alexandria, and through the recommendation of his ancient teachers from the Eleusinian School of Mysteries, he got in touch with the teachers in the Alexandrian school. And Alexandria is a very important place because it holds, until today, a great mystery school in the Vedic levels. And this school, which is the counterpart of the ancient library of Alexandria, holds many sacred books teaching wisdom, practices, rituals from very ancient times. So through this link and the doors of Alexandria, after being tested deeply by the fusion of this ancient Greek and ancient Egypt world, they opens the gates to the deep Isis teachings were opened. And these gates were the gates into the deep teachings along the temples of the river Nile. And then Pythagoras, when he was in his mid-20s, traveled along the different temples, schools of mysteries along the Nile, and at each one of these 7 sacred temples that represent the 7 sacred centers in the human body, he received a specific initiation carried out by the ancient Egypt priests. And this is how Isis, the ancient goddess, unveiled her knowledge, her deep magic and wisdom to this young man. But he didn't stay there, he didn't stop there. After being initiated in the mysteries of Isis, Pythagoras went further, and he humbly requested entrance to the sacred knowledge of the ancient rabbis of the Judaic tradition. And through that, he went deep into the desert, and he went into the colonies of the Scenes that were very active, concealing and at the same time guarding the secret aspects of their own culture. and he was taught and initiated into the mysteries also of all the Hebraic tradition. And he went further into the region of the Mesopotamia, where he learned the mystery of the skies by the hand of the ancient Chaldean astronomers and astrologers and magi coming from the ancient areas of Babylonia and Chaldea, and from there went to live with the Brahmins that held the secret knowledge from the Hindu world and the Vedic traditions. So Pythagoras traveled all over the world that was known at his own epoch, and when he was in his late 50s, he felt, and his teachers and masters felt, that he had acquired all the appropriate initiations to go back into his own culture and give them out to society. And because we're speaking of a time where Greece was the center of the world, where the Greek culture was the dominant, he decided to settle himself in one of the Greek colonies, and he reached then this area in southern Italy, where there was a small but robust Greek colony to settle himself, to impart his knowledge, and to start his active service to society. He had been training for more than 40 years in different, multiple mystery schools all over the known world, and he had become himself the embodiment of wisdom and truth. He was then ready to start sharing this knowledge with the world. This is a place where he decided to settle. This is Croton, the ancient colony that was thought to be created by none else than Hercules himself. And this is the place where he came, settled, and started his first school. We'll continue looking into the experiences of his school in the next video. Thank you. Around the year